Rhonda, do you want to start the game? Okay. I put in the chat for the people who are virtual to pick a number between 1 and 3. Put it in the chat, and then Rhonda is going to explain the game.
Okay, so depending on what number you picked, that's how many interesting things you're going to tell us about yourself. So it can't be anything work related. This is all personal related. So who wants to start? Excellent. Kimberly, okay. How many squares did you pick?
3, because I'm of the opinion that more is always more. So I like to sew. That's one of my things. I do have a picture of my Bridgerton ball dress that I made, including corset, chemise, and overskirt. Yep. That, was post-pandemic. Oh my God, I get to go out. I need to do it big. I like anime, hence why I'm wearing anime earrings from Demon Slayer. And I have one child. He's a 32-year-old man child, but he's still mine. Actually, he'll be 32 tomorrow.
Thank you. Okay, who wants to go next?
I have 3. I'll be brave. So I love animals. I have a dog. We recently lost a cat and a dog. It was a little bad. That's why we brought the little dog with us. I drive a loud, fast car when I'm home. I'm originally from Detroit and I have a 2012 Mustang GT 5.0. It's my car. And I also love to sew. And my sewing machine is actually older than me, my original one. My mom got it as a gift when she got pregnant with me from her aunt.
Awesome. That's awesome. Do we have anybody? How do we look at the Zoom? Okay. Who wants to go next? You're all going to go. Okay.
I lived in Fairbanks, Alaska for 3 years while I did graduate school.
Wow. That's awesome. Okay. Teresa.
I also have one son, and my son has blessed me with 5 grandgirls.
Yay. Yay. Okay. Next. Okay. Come on. Cooper, you only have one. All right.
I have no children.
Well played, sir. Who wants to go next? All right, Lisa. That's right.
That's right. My name is Lisa, and I too have a boy child, 32. Boy child, boy son, My child. Yeah, he is kind of. And we bought a cabin on a lake last year. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. I have 3 children, 2 boys and 1 girl. We just bought a vacation condo in South Carolina, which will be our retirement place someday. And I'm a Phillies fan, and we won the game last night.
I have 1 child, a daughter. She's 41. I had to think about that. And she blessed me with 2 grandchildren. Come on.
I enjoy riding my bike, and I actually just did a cross-country bike ride a few weeks ago. I started in Minnesota, close to the Canadian border, and finished in New Orleans. Yeah. And what's my other one? Well, my mom's originally from Boston, and my dad's from upstate New York, but I grew up in Texas, and now I live in Chicago.
Excellent. Okay. Who wants to go next?
Right, yeah. My favorite animal is elephants. And one of my favorite activities is to go for walks in our neighborhood.
Wendy.
I have 2 girls, 21 and 23. One is a nurse at our institution, and the other one is still in college at Towson, and she plays volleyball for them. And I love going to my boxing gym and working out.
Oh,
I had 2 pieces of toilet paper. So Alyssa and no, that's interesting about me is my name's Alyssa. I have 2 girls, a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. They've been having fun with grandma and grandpa, who just moved up to Madison too. So childcare has been a lot easier. And then I guess the other interesting thing is I love to garden. I can grow any kind of flower or anything outside, but if it's a plant and in my house, it is instantly dead. So
I'm able to keep on.
okay, California crew.
Okay, I have 3 pieces of toilet paper. I have 4 boys and a daughter. I love to roller skate, and I skate over at the beaches next to our area. And third, what was it, just interest? Oh, I love Zumba, and I hopefully will be certified like in a few months. So maybe I can teach it. Yeah, I'll teach you guys. Yeah.
You're doing the icebreaker next year.
I'm Christine, and I have 2 boys, 17 and 12. And we like to go hiking, outdoors activities.
I'm Angela, and I have 2 girls, 9 and 11. We love to go hang out at the beach. That's one of our favorite things to do. And I love to watch them play soccer. They're actually in the soccer tournament today. So hopefully they win. Tomorrow I get to see them. Hopefully they make it to the championship. We'll see how it goes.
Kelly, you ready? Oh, sure. Okay.
I have 4 boys, and I always said if we ever got a pet, I'd get a female pet, but we fell in love with a boy dog. So now I'm really outnumbered. We had a friend come over the other day, and he said, "Your mom must be really lonely by your only girl." I'm like, "No, it's all good." And I really, in the last couple of years, have gotten into audiobooks. So if I ever have my headphones in, sometimes I forget they're in because I'm always listening to an audiobook, especially working from home. It's like just kind of keeps me on track a little bit.
Okay, so somebody might tell what we're doing. Okay. Okay, so what's that? Sure, go ahead. Virtual people, if you'd like to unmute. Okay, let's see. I can do mine. I picked 3. So we have a 37-year-old daughter who lives in Chicago, and we probably won't have any grandchildren, which very much depresses me. But And in my spare time, I like to scrapbook and make cards. And I am Barry Manilow's like #1 fan. Yes, like #1. So I went to Vegas twice in the last year to see him, and I got I got like right next to the stage, right next to the stage. So, okay. What's that? Trust me, if there was a video, I'd be in it. Okay, Colleen, interesting things about yourself.
I was told that if I had tissues, there would be interesting things about me. So I really am struggling.
Okay.
Okay. No, it's okay. I'm kidding. No, I have 2 children, not so interesting, but they're older and on their own. I have 2 dogs, and we kayak, and we hike a lot. And my husband, he would get very upset if I didn't bring him up. So I have my husband too. He's like, why do you always forget me? You talk about your children. I'm like, I'm sorry. So that's about it. I mean, we do a lot of outdoor stuff. So it's fun.
That's awesome. Great, thank you. Okay, so I think that's everybody in the room here. Virtual people? Kiana, do you want to go? Tell us at least 2 interesting things about yourself.
Not work related. Hi, everyone. I'm Kiana. I'm a resident at a place here, but I have a cat named Mint. She is the love of my life. I don't plan on having children. And what do you do for fun? Residency.
Wait, you're supposed to have fun?
I'm trying to think of a second one.
What do you do in your spare time? What kind of music do you like?
What's a show you watched recently?
I am watching the 3rd season of Love is Blind, which is a hot mess, as many of you probably know. Their lives are worse than mine.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so people online, let's hear your virtual fun things.
Hi, it's Beth Giacolano from University of Rochester. I'm not going to put my camera on because I haven't showered yet. I'm not going to lie. I'm in my pajamas. So 2 interesting things about me is, well, not Barry Manilow, but Rick Springfield is my love of my life for the past 30,
Yeah, she's a Jesse's
40
girl.
years. Anybody know Rick Springfield? Are you all too young?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I've touched him several times. Met him. Most recently, this is really disgusting, but I'm going to share with you. I got his used Kleenex from a concert. I also I have 2 daughters. One's going to graduate college in December and then go on to her master's degree. And my youngest daughter is 19 and she's on the autism spectrum. So we have a lot of challenges there, but they're both the love of my lives, and along with Rick Springfield. And that's about it.
Hi, everyone. My name's Erica Long. I'm from Los Angeles. Interesting things. I'm interested in bonsai planting, and it's I have a pomegranate one. I have a peach tree one. I have trident maples, just like more on the exotic side. Planning for retirement. Other than that, I like to sew also, but my sewing is more of altering clothes to fit me. That's it.
Rita's unmuted. But
Hi, I'm Rita. I'm from Arizona. I love to travel. I go all over. I'm actually going on a cruise next week. I love to hike after moving to Arizona from New Jersey. The weather's always awesome here. And I love to do crafts on my free time.
I guess I'll go. My name is Janine. I am from Cooper in New Jersey. Like Rita, I love to travel. My favorite place to travel to is Key West. I've been there 5 times in the last 3 years, so you can say I like it a lot. And then I am a huge Backstreet Boys fan. That is the love of my life, and I've met them at least 7 times and have been on 3 of their cruises that they've gone on.
Hi, good morning. Excuse me, I'm Robin. I am from Lexington, Kentucky at UK. I have 2 children. I have a girl named Mary Bell, and she loves to hunt. She's a big hunter. And I have a son named Oliver, and he is an extreme introvert. And they're both adopted, and they're both dogs.
Michelle?
Good morning. Hi, I'm Lynette. I'm from UTMB, and I am a BOI, and I like to exercise, and the main thing is walking, and it helps definitely distress. So I say that's 2 big things for me. And I like to travel.
Lauren?
Hi, I'm Lauren. I work for West Virginia University. Couple interesting things about me is if you know anything about like college football rivalries, I am a University of Pittsburgh graduate and working for West Virginia University, and they're very close together. If you know anything about like the backyard brawl, it's a very close rivalry. So graduating from one college and working for the other is kind of fun. And I love to travel. My husband and I go to Nashville every year and try to do a couple other trips throughout the year as well.
Michelle posted in the chat that her microphone doesn't work. She's Michelle from Pittsburgh. She loves animals too. She has pet birds, and 4 of them are adopted, and she hopes she provides them with a better home than they previously had.
Good morning. My name is Michelle Reed. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I'm from Houston. I've been with Baylor College of Medicine for 28 years. I've been married for 28 years. I have 2 lovely daughters. One is a nurse and one is a chemist studying to be a food scientist. I have 2 grand pups, Kaiser and Kane. They are arch enemies. I love to run and ice skate.
Who else hasn't said and feels comfortable unmuting? Michelle, Susan, Amanda, or Kim? No? That is okay. All right, let me screen. All right, Kiana. So we are really lucky to have Kiana here. She's one of your PGY3 now at Vanderbilt, and has been one of the big driving forces of PSEA. I know we've met her a lot virtually, but we're really lucky to have her here in person. So. Thank you.
All the resident things. Thank you guys so much for giving me time today. I think we've got quite a bit of time. I don't want to spend all of it or most of it with me talking. I really want to hear from you guys for the majority of this time. So I have a kind of brief presentation. Most of you guys already know a lot of the information in it as far as how this year has gone, and kind of some of the things that we plan on doing next year, a lot of that based on feedback that we've received from you. But again, I really want this time to be about you guys telling me what you need for next year so that we can work on building it. So I'll start by going over kind of what the PSEA 3.0 looked like, what our goals were for this year, what we accomplished, what we need to work on a little bit more. And then I'm kind of breaking up improving the PSEA 4.0, if you want to say, we're giving too many numbers, but improving the PSEA in the future to the process, the application, and then kind of what you guys see on the reviewer portal. And then again, I want the majority of this time to be about questions that you guys have, feedback that you guys want us to take into consideration for next year. So I don't know how many of you used the 2.0 version, the SurveyMonkey version of PSEA. It was certainly better than the first version, which was on REDCap and basically a Google form, but it didn't work, right? It was not built to host 86 different programs. It was not built to host a residency application. We got through it, but we knew that after doing so, we needed to have our own software. So the biggest change for the PSEA 3.0 was building our software from the ground up. We hired Robert, who's a software engineer who built us our own system specifically dedicated for the plastic surgery common application. We tried to hire a designer, couldn't find one in time. So all of the designs are by yours truly, who has no experience in software at all, but made it through that. We had our dedicated support team of Robert, Elena, and myself, so that you guys had someone who was responding a little bit more frequently than me in between cases. This year, we decided to use the medical schools as a verification for the MBME or USMLE score reports. The score reports themselves cost $80 per applicant. Last year, we had decided to let applicants upload their own, and there were some concerns about the security of that. And so this year, we kind of did an in-between where we had the students enter their own scores and the medical schools verified them whenever they uploaded the MSPEs. This was actually pretty successful. We had a couple of medical schools ask us, you know, what's going on here and a little bit of concerns there. But ultimately all but 2 scores were verified by medical schools, and those 2 scores that were outstanding are from international students who had difficulty getting in touch with their medical schools to do it. But for the large majority of students, there was no issue in verifying their scores by their medical schools. We had the medical schools upload the MSPEs and the transcripts, which is exactly how ERAS does it. So that was a secure system this year. And then we also, which I didn't include on this slide, but we also had verified letter writers. So there was an issue last year, thankfully not in PSEA, but within ERAS of a student uploading a false letter. And so this year we had verified letter writers. So any user within the system was verified either directly by one of their institutional members who already had a PSEA account or directly by our team. We use signaling this year, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but only through the PSEA system. We had an early release date, which we had intended to be to allow you guys to play in the system with real applications prior to your kind of full release from ERAS. We had an unintended consequence of having some issues or questions surrounding the MSPE release date. And so our kind of in-between answer to that was to release everything besides the MSPE and then have the MSPE and transcripts come out on the same day as ERAS. We used 2-factor this year, which just added an extra layer of security to our system. I know that was kind of annoying for some folks who had difficulty getting the text messages, but that's something that's ongoing and working with our system. This year, we had 82 programs participate in the PSEA, 22 of which pulled out of ERAS and accepted the PSEA only. And I think one of the most important things that I can tell you guys this year is that that saved $170,000 of applicant money, just 22 programs pulling out of ERAS. Each program that pulls out is about $8,000 for 300 applicants. And so for a lot of the programs that did both this year and were happy with the PSEA and are comfortable using the PSEA moving forward, pulling out of ERAS really does save a ton of money. And even if just a couple programs do it, we can save a lot of applicant money. And then we had 4 programs that were ERAS only for a variety of institutional concerns, some of which we've already heard from. We'll plan on accepting the PSEA next year. So signaling was new this cycle for a lot of specialties. There's some data that came out of ENT and urology on how helpful signaling was. And so that was something that we had pitched to ACAPS this year to use and that we could build it for them. The number decided was 5 signals per applicant. That was decided by the ACAPS task force. ACAPS recommended programs or students to not signal their home or away programs so that they kind of got more bang for their buck. And they had already demonstrated interest in those programs. We included a mandatory signal statement of 100 words, which was not included in the ERAS signaling pathway, and we only accepted signals this year, plastic surgery did, from PSEA. We made some kind of in-cycle changes based on some issues that you guys had and some feedback that we got. We added the medical schools to the view application page. We kind of changed the completed reviews page to include check marks to let you know which ones you had actually done, and added the applicants as the default search filter. So if you typed in, you know, Kiana, you wouldn't have to search filter name Kiana, you would just type in and I would come up. We completely reformatted the completed reviews page to make it a little bit more user-friendly. I don't know if you guys have gotten to the stage to look at that page, but that's been something that Dr. Dorley and a couple of the other program directors have been giving us some live feedback on, and we've been able to make some in-cycle changes there. And then systemic, a lot of you guys were wondering, you know, when I send in help requests, where does that go into the universe if I don't hear something back immediately? So we created an automatic email to let you guys know that your request has been received by our team. So again, the three kind of buckets I'm putting things into are improving the process in general, improving the application specifically, and then improving the portal that you guys use to review these applications. The biggest thing in improving the process is communication with applicants, with programs, with medical schools. I really do think we put a lot of effort into that this cycle, and I think a lot of the confusion there lied between kind of what's communication coming from ACAPS and what's communication coming from the PSCA. And we tried to be basically like a system for ACAPS to use and let them drive the ship as far as the communication of what programs we're using, what applications, and what students should do. And I think there was a little bit lost in between those two buckets there. And so that's something we want to definitely push and think at the forefront moving forward, letting applicants know what are the PSCA deadlines, what's the timeline for this application, which programs are participating in which application, and are they truly accepting both, or do they prefer to have one as a supplement to the other? Communication with medical schools, you know, we really relied on this year to verify the scores, and some of the medical student affairs officers would have liked a little bit more of a heads up from us about what we were doing. And so that's something that we plan on working ahead of time with them to make sure they know exactly what we're looking for. Now, it's unclear how ACAPS will move forward as far as what they want the score reports to look like. Do we want to just pay the $80 per applicant for the score report? Looking at, you know, the whole global picture, that's $30,000 for ACAPS or plastic surgery as a specialty. If we decide to go with $80 score reports, thinking about all specialties, the MBME collects roughly $2.4 million from applicants for score reports that they already have, which, you know, how I think about those kind of things, I think it's silly. So that's something that we can work on in the future. But regardless, how we plan to handle that piece of the puzzle is something we need to communicate better with medical schools and with the applicants directly. And one big thing that you guys, I'm sure will appreciate, is the ability to access your program director and all of your recommenders accounts for them to be able to give you privileges so that you can go into their account and upload letters directly for them or send out invitations or whatever it may be. That's one of the big features that we already knew we would need to build, but just weren't able to build it this year. The application itself, again, we kind of want to serve as a platform for you guys to use, for ACAPS to use. And so what goes into the application is totally up to ACAPS and the residency selection committee or the PSCA task force, or whichever bucket it falls under for committees next year, to decide what's included in the application. But some feedback that we got this year is that we need a preferred name. We need the name of the partner if they're couples matching. We had decided to not collect AAMC IDs this year, and our thought process was that it was a separate system from ARAS, but we realized this year that some people really do need the AAMC IDs if they're trying to compare applications or even just look back at other things related to AAMC. NRMP IDs was another consequence of us pushing our release date early, is that applicants, most of them didn't have their NRMP ID when they submitted their application. And so that's something that we're kind of ongoing trying to think of some solutions for, because many of the programs, especially the ones that are PSCA only, or even people who have applicants who will be on their rank list who only submitted a PSCA, will need the NRMP ID to make their rank list. And so I'm curious about your feedback about that, on how we can most effectively collect that information for you and get it to you at this point. And then signaling and applicant preferences. There are a lot of cool ideas on how to improve that process. This year, ERAS included preferences like, you know, geography and program size and all those things. And the ACAPS task force decided to opt out on those things this year, but it's something that we could certainly build if ACAPS wanted us to, you know, different preferences for applicants and number of signal statements, other things to include in the signal statement. That's something that with our own application, we're able to kind of build directly. So the meat of what we're going to be working on next year is going to be the reviewer portal. We focused a lot on the applicant facing side this year and making sure that the system worked and we got you your applications and that they were kind of the basic functions were there, but we really want to build out some cool tech for you guys as far as the reviewer portal. Some kind of big things, and I'll go into these in a little bit more detail, would be application toggling. That's a simple one. Groups, which there was a lot of feedback about the groups. We promised to make the groups function better. The completed reviews portal and making that more user friendly. Building you an interview manager, which allows you to send schedule invitations and also a rank list manager and scoring the applicants on their interview, all of those functions, and then direct applicant communication through the PSCA if you would like to. Application toggling is a simple one. A lot of you guys are like, hey, it would have been really nice to be able to just click next and not have to go back to the original page. And again, this is something that as we hire our designer, which we're speaking to someone currently, to try to help us with user interface, kind of things that we don't think about as far as things that makes the system simpler. But this is an easy one, the ability to kind of click through applications and also functions within the application itself. So while you're looking at the application, what things can you do? Can you add them to a group directly? Can you send them a message? Can you, add them to your interview manager? Those kind of things so that you can take those notes and complete those functions while you're looking at the application itself. And then also being able to toggle through certain groups. So if you want to just look at, your 15 applications of students who have completed an away rotation, that you can just toggle through those and then go to the next batch. Groups. These have been the bane of my existence this year as well. But groups certainly need their own kind of standalone page for managing them so that you can be able to say, hey, these are the groups that I've created. These are the people within the group. I want to be able to quickly kind of look through them, download their applications, etc. I want to be able to review the group at once and toggle through those applications. While you're in the application portal, you want to be able to add and remove groups directly. While you're looking at the completed reviews, if you want to add them to a group afterwards, after they've been scored, that you should have the ability to do that. And that the groups can be shared amongst the team or personal, either way, because I know some programs may want to say, these are our away group, and not everyone has to create their own. And so that's something that we'll certainly build out and use your feedback on. The completed reviews portal got some upgrades this cycle as well. And some of the things that we changed as recently as this week is showing you the number of completed reviews and who has not completed their review. That way, if you need to ping them and say like, hey, Kiana, you haven't completed your reviews, you have the ability to see who's done that. But also something we're going to add is a reminder function so you can just hit a button and not have to communicate directly with them. The Excel sheet of the completed reviews we've talked about a little bit this year. It's not going to look pretty in any way that I can think about making it right now. So that's something we're still brainstorming on how to make that look the most user-friendly as far as looking at all of those. The portal is actually the easiest way to do those because you can kind of expand things and see the full review in a user interface, but in an Excel sheet, it's kind of harder to do, but that's something that we're working on. And then adding the interview manager function so that once you've looked at a completed review, if you want to just check through and say, these top 30 applicants are going to fall into our interview group, that you can just ship them over into the interview manager directly. The interview manager will be a big build for us next year, mostly just the portal for you to be able to see who you want to interview, a scheduling tool so you can schedule time slots and dates directly through our portal that the reviewers can then go in and say like, here's my scheduled interviews, and they can click through and pull up those applications on schedule with them, score them directly within the interview manager, and then there'll be a second kind of completed review phase where you can look and see what the scores are after the interview system. We're going to probably build a rank list manager as well so that you can see those scores. And if you want to kind of toggle through and put them in different orders and add comments and all those things, that if your program wants to use that system, it's available to you. And then again, direct communication with applicants, both through the system at all of these phases. So, thank you for applying to all of our applicants. Here's certain groups, here's our interview group, and so forth. So big things for us. We've obviously got a lot of things to work on as far as improving the system. I think that this year it worked a lot better than last year, but certainly still has a lot of things that we can build out to make it even more friendly for you guys. Obviously going to update the designs, make it look prettier, and think more about that UI space. We want to communicate with programs throughout this process. One of our things moving forward is directly communicating with the individual program directors and program coordinators about their experience. Collected some feedback from you guys kind of anonymously early on, which is helpful for us moving forward, but we definitely want to make sure that if you have any concerns about the PCA, that we can hear them and hopefully respond to them prior to a decision for you guys for next cycle. You're never going to hurt my feelings by telling me something doesn't work for you, I promise. I want it to work, and I want all of you guys to eventually pull out of ERAS and use this application for the students, because we can save a ton of money for them, and we can also make this process a lot better for programs. Next year, we are planning to expand to some other specialties that will come with its own problems and excitement. Neurosurgery, anesthesia, and ortho have all expressed some interest in using this next year. And so having multiple specialties within the platform will be its own, interesting bird, but that's something that we're excited for as well. So I'm done talking. I want to hear from you guys.
So my program director, I'm new to things, so this is my first time using any of them. And a lot of our faculty like the applications sorted by last name. And when we spilled them out, they were first name. And so I had to change every file because mine are not yet reviewing through the PSC. I'm working on that. But is there any way to make it so we can choose if we want last name first or first name first?
Yes.
Okay.
Certainly. That's a relatively easy switch for Robert. We had talked about it because that was a big piece of feedback we got from a lot of people. As far as like the downloads, you mean like the Excel downloads or the PDF downloads. And so is that helpful for you guys still at this point in the cycle?
Yes.
Not for me in the cycle now, but next year it'd be a lot easier.
Next year, 100%.
Because I changed 300 and some.
I'm so sorry.
So they were last name first. I mean, I know how to do it easily.
Yeah, but it's still annoying.
Yeah, it still took me
Yeah.
a good hour and a half, maybe.
Definitely.
So I don't know about licensing requirements otherwhere. I live here, and I know one of the things our board requires is a certified copy of the USMLE. So that was one of the things that we would take from the ERAS application, which would be one less thing for the student to try to get. So I'm just giving you that feedback when we don't have the actual USMLE report. Yeah.
So one thing that we've been thinking about is, so when you take step one and you get your score, you get a copy of the score report, which is certified. The last year we had students upload their own copy of the score report, and there were concerns that people could alter that document. I actually don't think you can alter it. Like if you open it as a PDF, it is locked down, uneditable. And so one of the things that we were going to investigate this year is there any way to alter it and still have it, like Robert can check the code of that document and verify that it has not been altered since initial production. And so that's one of the creative solutions we're trying to get around. Ultimately, $30,000 for the application is for the score report is small in the grand scheme of like 500,000. So obviously if it's something that programs just need, then it's something that we'll do. But
And the math board is pretty strict, so they don't accept anything from the applicant. Everything, and even the program, I basically have to give my packet to my GME office, and there's somebody in there that's certified to sign to say they opened it. So it's
Gotcha.
not me.
Gotcha. Good to know. Thank you.
I was wondering, and this might be me not using the system correctly, but is there a way for me to leave a note in an applicant file that everyone reviewing it can see?
Not currently.
Okay.
The program director can see everything.
Okay.
And a couple of folks have asked for that. That's something that we will certainly build out next year.
Cool.
Is the ability for the program to decide whether or not they want just the program director to see the comments or everyone to see the comments.
Okay. Because I know from our point of view, it'd be really helpful if I could put a note being like, this person attended the meet and greet or reached out on these dates, and just how like actively involved they are. But
Definitely. Yeah, that's a great point. The thought behind hiding it this year is that we didn't want to bias other people's reviews by adding in someone else's comments, but that's a really good point.
It looks like someone just put in the chat. That's for programs. Oh, no, one way.
For programs who are using both ERAS and PSCA for now, is there a way to filter out applicants who applied through both ERAS and PSCA? And the program director wanted me to ask the question. We have no knowledge of who applied through ERAS. And so the only way to do that is to look and download an Excel file of the names of both and then kind of compare them, unfortunately.
Is there a way to add in like how many, like there's an applicant who failed step 1 on their first attempt, but when you look at PSCA, you only see that it was pass. And I
Yes.
know sometimes that is an issue with licensing boards as well, if there was a fail. Is there a way to include that in future?
Yes, 100%. That's something that Dr. Dorley had actually caught with one of the applicants that signaled our program. And he didn't realize either until he was reading the letters of recommendation and was like, there's something interesting here. And so that was just a oversight on our part on, asking them the direct question if you passed or failed.
Hi, Kiana.
Hi,
Yesterday, I think it was Dr. Gosain that mentioned that there was going to be a charge next year for PSCA. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, at some point, there has to be a charge to run the system because it is not free to run. It's not free to have people responding and all that jazz. Obviously, our primary goal for starting this process in the beginning was to keep costs low for applicants. We want to be very considerate of how many programs are also going to use ERAS because that's another cost for them. As long as I am in front of PSCA, it will never be more than like $150 for an applicant to apply for PSCA for all programs. We're still deciding how much exactly it'll cost next year, but I imagine it'll be around $100 per applicant, just flat fee for everything. And another thing is if there is ever an issue with an applicant being able to cover that $100, that is something that we will easily work with them on.
Hi, Kiana. I just want to let you know that I've received feedback from my faculty and they love the view of it. They love how it flows. They love how it's not cluttered. They just like reviewing them and they like seeing them that way. So I just wanted to give you guys that feedback.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I think this feedback has also been shared, but I have run into issues this year with the eye blind things. But then if I'm printing in bulk for my faculty, everything gets unblinded when I print it as a program coordinator. So that's been my struggle. So I've had to do like a weird workaround where I assign it to my chair, who I have the login for right now because of that whole ordeal. But
like it's blinding it for your reviewers, but not for yourself.
Not for myself. So if I download all the applications, anything I blinded is not blinded anymore.
Gotcha. I did not know that, but that seems like it can be fixed.
And then it would also be really nice to be able to download, like even in bulk, like certain parts of the application. So if you only want people looking at a personal statement, or you only want to have them look at the letters of rec, because otherwise I have to go in and like delete all the pages and it takes a lot.
Is the application, you mean, because right now there's like that checklist, is the application its own and you want that to be an expanded list as well, is what you're saying?
Yeah, so if
Okay.
I only want to look at their short answers, or if we only want to look at a certain part, just to be able to print just that little chunk of it.
Definitely. Would you mind taking that? I don't know if you took that. Perfect. Yeah, but we can work on getting an option for you. So if you want to either download everything or you want to download what your reviewers will see is something we can certainly do. I'll see if that's something that we can get done this cycle. Is that something that you still need this cycle? No. Okay. So we'll make it next cycle. I try to triage what I give Robert to be like, hey, I need this right now versus what we can improve on for next cycle. Definitely. Definitely.
Hi.
Hey.
I think you've done a really good job with PSCA. I think it's very user friendly. So thank you for that. Is there a way to download the applicant's photos individually?
I think that would be similar to what Alyssa's
Okay.
asking, like the specific components.
Okay.
But we can certainly, is that something that you would need? I know a lot of you guys use that for interviews.
It would be helpful to have it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll see if we can get that this cycle.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Sorry, one more question. What about bulk emails?
That will be a feature for next cycle.
Okay.
The direct communication.
Looks like someone virtually raised their hand, maybe, Beth?
Yeah, hi, Kiana. I have a couple questions for you. In your presentation, you mentioned that you might be able to use the AAMC numbers next year. Is that what, I just want to verify that because that's a huge thing for our institution because we're required to use Thalamus and Cortex and they go by that number. So I just wanted to verify, is that what you were saying or you're looking into it for next year?
We were going to ask applicants to include their AAMC ID because they'll automatically have those after applying to medical school. So even if, plastic surgery were to not use ERAS at all, they would still have AAMC IDs.
Okay.
I had met with the director of Thalamus earlier this year, and I had thought that we had figured out how to make those systems work, but I realize now that a lot of programs using Thalamus were not able to use PSCA, so that's something that we can be more proactive for next year with the downloads and everything. So I apologize if that was a difficulty for you guys this year.
Yeah, and another question for you. So when you assign reviewers, I only assigned half of my applications because my associate program director was having surgery and we weren't sure if he would be able to review. So now I'm trying to figure out, so I didn't assign half of them to anybody yet. So I'm trying to figure out, can I see who I assigned to my program director so far and who has not been assigned? Because currently I'm pulling it up and the only ones I can get to my second reviewer is all 301 applications.
That is certainly something that we plan on building in the future. I should have probably included that in that slide because that's something that even Dr. Derlay has been like, he accidentally assigned everyone to everyone and then had to go back through and delete it. And so we've learned a lot from his ability to use the system with actual applicants in it. As far as this cycle, if you send me an email, I can have Robert pull that information for you directly. That way we can get your assignments the way you need them to be. But it will be its own portal so that you can see exactly which applicants have been assigned to whom and which reviewers have been assigned which applicants. So it's easier for you to go through and check those.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Tiana, I have a question. For in the, how should I say, where is it? It's in my reviewers or the team part. I had one of my faculty who created an account already when he wrote letters as a recommender. However, I created him again. I didn't know he had an account. I created him and I added him to my team. So he was a new member to it, but somehow it disappeared and I can't see him anymore.
If you send me an email, I can combine those two accounts so that they're one system and then you should be able to see both.
Oh, okay. I had emailed the PSCA email account, but I never heard a response.
Okay. If you wouldn't mind just reshooting an email to PSCA and to me, then we can handle that for you. I'm sorry about that.
Okay. Thank you.
And one of the things in the future will be, so when the applicants look for a letter writer, it auto-populates with all of the letter writers that have already been verified in our system. And so similarly, when you're adding a reviewer or recommender, we'll pull that auto-populated list. That way you're not accidentally creating an account because that's what happens there is if you send another invitation. There is a way, the way that we thought about it is like if I get an invitation, I already have an account. When I open that invitation, there's a little link at the bottom to say log in with your existing account. But a lot of people miss that link. I almost missed it myself and they just create a new one and then it tells them they already have one and it's confusing. So again, on the user interface side, we can improve that process for you guys. Yeah.
Okay, so I know that the PSA closed on like September 28th, I think.
Something early.
Okay,
yeah.
so was it closed forever? Or if a letter writer uploaded a letter after that, did it still go to the applicant's
Yes,
profile?
so closed to applicants, but any documents outstanding can still be uploaded.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. What is the timeline going to look like for the next iteration? When will we have like a beta testing that coordinators kind of like the sandbox, but something like more robust, or what is that going to look like?
Yeah, so we will rebuild both the sandbox and the PSCA. One thing we learned this year is we had created these, fake applicant profiles, but it was a little bit difficult to test certain things with the fake information that we put in there. Like once you actually have 300 real applications, things start to look a little bit different. And so we'll rebuild the sandbox. One of the things I'm going to see if Robert can do for us is basically put your old applications in that new sandbox so that you can play with the system with your real applications and kind of see which issues you would run into. Ideally, we would like our system to be like kind of up to par by early next year so that you have a couple months to play with it before the actual applications cycle begins. Obviously, with hiring a designer and having Robert build out these features, it's kind of up to their timeline, but that's our goal is February, March-ish to have it certainly by the spring meeting so that if you guys have any questions, we can answer those and any concerns and all that jazz.
And then one more question. So with Eris, it archives the applications for 5 years. How is that going to work with PSCA, especially as we start to lose people using Eris?
Yeah, we will archive them as well, probably longer than 5 years.
And how, I guess, would that just be like an option up on the top of like, you go select whatever
previous applications to your program.
whatever
Yeah,
year.
and same thing for applicants. Now that we're in our own system, if an applicant has a previous, like if they don't match and they want to reapply, they can pull all of their old information into their future applications, which is something we weren't able to offer last year because we switched systems each year. But now that all of the data is within our own system, we can do that.
Thank you.
Did anyone not use PSCA this year? Did anyone except both, but primarily use ERAS because of issues with PSCA? I know you had problems with Salamis. Was that the primary reason or?
Just a comfort thing. And I didn't feel like I had enough time to play with the other one.
Okay.
Because I think when the sandbox information was released, I think it was July. I mean, I don't honestly remember when. Yeah. And I just didn't feel like I had enough time. So having the past applicant information in a play screen would definitely be helpful.
Okay.
So I'm a 4-week plastics coordinator, so I'm sort of just coming into the process, and my guys like everything downloaded. So I did try to download the PSCA application and Eris so that they could look at them together. And I'm pretty sure they just went with the Eris application. And I haven't really had a chance to talk to them to figure out why yes or why no.
Okay. I think you raised your hand too. Okay. How did the signaling work for you guys? Okay. Did you guys use it as a screening or how did you? No. Okay. Some yes, some no.
We did too.
And one of the things, sorry, I'll come to you a second. Go ahead.
So we weren't originally going to use the signaling part of it, but last week, my program director, he's working on finaling our list down and he said, hey, can you just send me who signaled us? He goes, I just we have he's got some room to maybe add a few more people. And then that's how he used it for this cycle. So we'll see.
One of the things that was brought up is that you weren't able to hide the signal if people wanted to hide it, like from the actual PDF or the portal. So if you downloaded it, I don't know if that was an issue for any of you guys, but that way your reviewers don't have to necessarily know whether or not the applicant signaled you or not, is something that will give the option for the program coordinators and program directors to use.
So I do want to give kudos to the signaling because as I told our review group, the applicants only have 5 signals. There's 80 some programs. So I said, the fact that they gave us a signal says something. It really does when you think about the fact that they gave us one of their 5. So.
Yeah, and thinking about the number of signals is something that I'm particularly interested in, and I know it will be ACAPS's, task force residency selection committee's decision. But a lot of specialties gave a lot more signals. Like internal medicine, I think gave 18, like it was a crazy, I mean, they obviously have way more programs than plastic surgery does. OB-GYN also used a lot. And so for them, a lot of programs signaling basically became the application, right? If you get 18 of them and you don't signal their program, then they're unlikely to offer you an interview. And so there's an intermediate between, 2 and 3 and 20. But it's kind of interesting to think about, since a lot of specialties went towards signaling this year and have a wide variety of experiences with it.
Signals are going to be meaningless.
I think, do you have a question? Sorry, behind you. I don't know everybody's name, I'm sorry.
My program director actually looked and said, why would we interview anybody that didn't signal us? He was just kind of going, well, that's silly. If they really didn't make the effort to signal us, why would, because we have you have the sub-Is and then you have the people that signal. But then I'm like, well, we still have, like, I feel like looking through all of the applications, it's hard.
Yeah.
But the signaling is an interesting concept because he's kind of right. Like,
yeah. I don't know how many of you guys know my program director, Dr. Drolet, but he's very vocal about his thoughts on signaling and and
I was like, we all got that email.
yeah, he felt similarly. And I actually kind of challenged him a little bit on that, because I think that there's not enough information for applicants before they signal to make an informed decision.
there's nothing out there. And the
Yeah.
student, I said, you don't even know if the students knew how to signal, like right now, right? So I think they need to have more information out there.
The decision, you're making that decision based off of a virtual, Instagram live, word of mouth, and like who your program may know, to say what your experience was. Like I talked to some applicants, some fourth years at my school, and they're like, hey, this is what I liked. What do you think about from the places that you interviewed? And so they're making signal decisions based off of like my, one-day interview experience at a place. And so one of the things that we are planning to build out as well, separate from the PSCA, is basically like a system where programs can input information. I know ACAPS bought the ortho Orin. I don't know if they've actually used it yet, but we're still going to plan on building out our kind of own version of that and a little bit of an expansive version. So programs can enter information, like number of faculty, kind of like, which experience of craniofacial hand, et cetera, are you kind of the highest in, how many female residents do you have? How many URMs, what's your research experience like? Do you have any away rotations? Do you have any global health? All of these things that applicants may not know that they're looking for in a program. Because I personally, I remember when I started my interview process, I told Dr. Drolet I thought I wanted to stay at Vanderbilt. He told me I didn't know anything. He was like, go interview and then see how you feel. And I ultimately came back to that decision, but I really didn't know what I was looking for in a program until I did my ways, until I interviewed and learned a lot of different things about what a program might have. And so I think that we need to build out a way for applicants to get some of that information ahead of time. And I also think values that a program has outside of just the numbers of like, what's your average scores, blah, 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 but like what kind of things do you think are important for a program and an applicant? And similarly, have the applicant say like, these are the things, my priorities in looking for a program. Like I really want a robust research experience. I really want a family feel. I really want like a lot of academia, et cetera. And then kind of have them match. And then, you can play with your preferences and see which, top 3 programs come up as like a tender for plastic surgery programs or something, but anyways, the ability to kind of get some information ahead of time to help you decide where to do an away rotation, which, live should you go to, et cetera, which program should you try to reach out to. So that's some kind of fun features that we've got on the back burner.
They weren't sure, like, do I apply to both? Do I,
yes,
and it's hard to say, no, don't, you can just apply to the one when.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, that is hard because I don't want to overstep my role within ACAPS as like being in charge of PSCA, because I really do want this to become like ACAPS owns the PSCA. We built the software, the platform to be able to allow it to happen, but ACAPS is really in charge of it. And so we're trying to find that balance and which programs are participating in what was an ACAPS task force task that ultimately we ended up just picking up because we were getting so much feedback that applicants were still confused. But again, making sure we get ahead of that early on. And similarly with like, signaling and rules about signaling, even some of the people at our own program were like, oh, why don't we get a signal from our away student? And we're like, because we told them not to, and so making sure that communication is very, very clear. And one of the things that I've said for a long time is that there should be listservs for applicants set from the time they're a second year that they can enter and leave, et cetera, so that we know basically who the applicant pool is ahead of time, like ACAPS knows, so that they can communicate these things directly with applicants, because we really don't have a mechanism for reaching all applicants aside from like social media and through programs, and sometimes that misses people. And so there's got to be a better way to communicate. So yes, we could reach to each individual medical school. However, there's international medical schools, there's DO medical schools, right? There's a ton of them that we would miss by just like sending out an email. And that also relies on the medical schools to then communicate to all of their students. And so I feel like, if we give them 3 years, like my vision is like, when you are a medical student who says, hey, I'm interested in plastic surgery, you fill out a form on our website, on ACAP's website that says, my name's Kiana. I'm a first-year medical student at Vanderbilt. I'm interested in plastic surgery. And each year you can update that to say like what year you are. If you end up taking out a research year or whatever, you don't follow the normal cycle. Yes, I'm still applying, or I'm not sure, or whatever, to add you to different buckets for information to come to you directly from ACAPS. And that way, when it's time for you to apply, you've already have a line of communication, and we can tell you, hey, here's information on exactly how to apply to plastic surgery.
So congested, because it's hard to go to their website and look for information, even for myself. So
yeah, there are some things we can do to make this better outside of just the PSA, but just communicating to applicants so they know exactly what they're doing. Because I had a phenomenal plastic surgery interest group that guided me through this pathway, but if you didn't, then I can imagine it'd be very confusing.
Thank you. I was just curious, the signaling, like how many signals have you guys gotten? Like a lot? You got how many? Wow. I mean, we had like 5.
Yeah, I haven't pulled I know that every program at least got 1 signal. I have not pulled the distribution of those for urology or ENT. I can't remember which specialty it was, but they published on their signaling information, and we looked at that before we decided how many signals to give. And it follows a bell curve. It kind of depends on how many spots you have, kind of where your program falls as far as reputation goes, et cetera. And how many applicants know about your program. So there's a lot of, the programs that applicants typically think of when they're like, oh, I want to do an away, et cetera, that probably got, closer to the 30 mark of signals, and some programs probably got closer to the 5 to 10 mark. It's something to think about moving forward as far as what number is helpful. And so how many signals do we give applicants to let them, get to that helpful number, to let programs, because signaling should be useful for both programs and applicants, right?
Kiana, last year at the business meeting, there was a program director who spoke up and said, our institution mandates that we use ERAS. So how are you handling that?
So ERAS, unlike so the match is, I forget the technical word for it, but entering the match is an all or nothing. If some specialties enter the match, then all specialties have to enter the match. ERAS is not yet like that. That may be something they pull out of their back pocket to try to stop the PSCA. But some programs require they're just skeptical of the security of it, but they don't actually, their institution does not actually mandate ERAS. And so we're talking to those. There were only 4 programs this year that pulled out for a variety of reasons. And so we're talking to those programs directly about what those reasons were, so we can talk to their institutions if there are any institutional concerns. But I think ultimately ACAPS is going to take the stance, and that'll be Dr. Gossain to speak about at the meeting, but support the PSCA, but not require the PSCA, just in case there are those concerns.
Yeah, it's all over the place. I imagine it's probably a bell curve, just like the ENT data.
I was wondering if the plastic surgery med students that are applying are getting any kind of training on the use of the signals beyond just like the utilitarian. I mean, it's a strategic tool for them.
Yeah.
And if you use all your signals on the applications that or the places that everyone wants to go to, not everyone can go there, you know, so like spreading it out into different pools or just
Yeah.
strategic use, I guess.
So we, as like just me and Dr. Rolay and a couple other people on our team had a session with applicants early on and kind of gave them our version of advice on that. Exactly what you said, you know, it's kind of like applying to med school or applying to college, right? Like if you have a limited number that you can do, then you want to make sure you kind of spread it where you think that you're actually going to get some bang for your buck, reach places and places that you have connections to. And that's also why we included the signal statement, because to us, if a applicant has like a legitimate reason to want to be at Vanderbilt, like that matters a lot more than just like, we think your program is great, you know? And so we tried to give our version of advice for that. I think in the future, there can certainly be some differing opinions or whatever on strategies for handling signaling, especially depending on how many we decide to go with in the future. But it was also the first time we did it. So we don't really even know, you know, what the best advice is for applicants. So that'll be something that we learn. For the applicants who have good mentorship, I think they probably did fine. For the applicants applying from schools without any, you know, mentors in academic plastic surgery, I'm sure they probably had a lot of questions. Even the people from our school were like, I know 3 places I certainly want to signal and I don't know what to do with the other 2, you know? And so that'll be interesting moving forward. I'm sure like internal medicine with 18, you're probably just like shooting your shot at random places, you know, at a certain point, but.
Are you going to publish the data on where, like the
signals?
Signals?
So ACAPS technically owns all data from the Plastic Surgery Common App. And so if we use any of that data, it'll be released by ACAPS. We're just a platform. Or similarly, like if I wanted to request data from ERAS, I can request it. So they could, like, if you wanted to write a study on signaling, you could request data. And if ACAP says you can have it, then you can have it. Okay. Cool. Well, thank you guys. You have my email and my phone number, hopefully by now. If you have questions or thoughts, I just want to reiterate, I want you guys to be at the forefront of this kind of next iteration of PSCA. So if you have questions, I think someone raised their hand.
I think Erica has a question.
Or Beth?
Maybe.
I think they may be old hands.
Okay.
I don't know how to clear the hands. Okay, I'm gonna just keep talking and interrupt me if you have new hands. Anyways, please let me know about your feedback as you go through the process. You can literally send me an email of just bullet points and say like, hey, here are my random thoughts at 2 a.m. as I'm reviewing applications, and I will save that and send it to Robert and we'll discuss and everything. But if your program is considering not using PSCA and you just want to tell me the reasons why you're not using PSCA and give me a chance to maybe change your mind, please do so.
When will our access coordinators stop for this season?
It won't.
Oh.
Yeah, so you'll have full access. I think when we revamp the system, that may change things for you, but I plan on leaving your access for as long as you would like it. Cool. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you so much. All right, I guess I'm next, which we're early, which is good. My program isn't here and I love that. So I'll get yelled at, but I'm gonna go ahead. What did I just do? Beth, do you have a hand raised still?
No, I don't.
Okay,
I don't know how to get rid of it.
there we go.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to make sure we were answering questions if there were any. Okay. I don't want to do this. I am not a good public speaker. I will fully admit. Okay. Are we good? So, yeah, that's where we're starting today. Good morning. Again, Alyssa Shafee, Program Coordinator of the Residency at the University of Wisconsin. And I've also had the distinct pleasure of serving as presidents for the ACAPS program coordinators this past year. I'll let Rhonda get her picture. Okay. So I recently gave a very similar version of this talk to my residents and faculty, and they're still a little confused why I was up there talking to them. But I thought that it was really important that they knew what I did as a program coordinator, why I exist, where I even came from. Our institution did like a strengths finder, and one of mine is I'm a learner. So I always like to know what and why and just fill my head with useless information. So wouldn't lie if I didn't have a bit of an existential crisis asking what I actually do every day of my life and how to describe my job to a bunch of surgeons who think they know what I do, but they have no clue. But figured I could give you a bit of history as to why we're all here today and where program coordinators came from. So why are we here? We're here because of cocaine. This is not a mandatory public sentence that's being enforced. It's not an AA meeting, but we're here because a cocaine addict basically made surgery residency what it is today. So William Stewart Halstead from Hopkins is our buddy. So again, not going to go into too much detail on the residency history, surgical education. Those could and have been entire talks. But it is worth noting a bit about the history to see where residency came from and what it has morphed into. So in the 1800s, if there was a physician who identified as a surgeon, they were often trained in an apprenticeship for an indeterminate amount of time or attended 6 to 12-week courses that taught advanced surgical skills. The elites traveled to Europe to train under surgeons there, which is where our buddy Halstead comes in after traveling to Germany and Austria to study. So William Halstead developed a novel residency training program at Johns Hopkins that became the model for surgical and residency training in North America. While Halstead didn't develop the first residency in America, that claim gets to go to William Osler, who also started a medical residency at Johns Hopkins, where learners were required to live in the hospital to provide constant care for patients, which is where the term resident comes from. Halstead was the first to develop a surgical residency, and prior to his career at Hopkins, Halstead was a surgeon in New York who was considered skilled, daring, and charismatic with a passion for teaching medical students. Halstead and some colleagues read a report that cocaine could be used as a local anesthesia, decided to experiment on themselves, and accidentally found themselves addicted. Halstead's career deteriorated as he soon became addicted to morphine, which he used to treat his cocaine addiction, as one does. Everyone believed Halstead's addiction was cured, and he was promoted at Johns Hopkins, becoming the first professor of surgery in 1892. However, Halstead was able to hide his addiction under his pyramidal structure for surgical residency, where he was erratic in his behavior and interacted very little with his junior residents. So 8 interns served for 1 year and only 4 were allowed to advance. One eventually rose to the level of house surgeon for an indeterminate amount of time until Halstead cleared them for independent practice while the others waited to be advanced. So your surgical residency could take 10 plus years. It just depended on how Halstead decided he felt about you. Right, yes, was he high or not? So instead of Halstead teaching interns hands-on, the senior residents walked the juniors through patient management and operative skills. And there's a constant emphasis on being slow, safe, and working on operative precision versus speed. Some debate if this was due to his addiction or the addiction deteriorating his technical abilities, or if it was just due to changing priorities and starting to learn about patient safety. And Halsted actually did a whole bunch of developments around like sterile field, and it's really interesting if you ever want to kill some time. Yep. Yep. Yep, started surgical gloves, yeah. So in 1910, the Flexner Report was published, and it discussed the need to revamp and centralize medical institutions and called for many medical schools to be closed. It emphasized standardizing medical education following the recommendation of the Council on Medical Education to have 2 years of training in anatomy and physiology and 2 years of clinical work in a teaching hospital. And it has not really changed that much since. As a result of the report, several medical schools were closed. They decreased from 160 medical schools in 1904 to just 66 in 1935. So a lot changed because of the Flexner Report. So many medical schools were closing or focused on reforming to avoid being closed. They didn't consider surgical training part of their purview. And as such, more and more doctors started to pursue internships and the surgical field started to evolve. 1 year of an internship was proving to not be enough for the increased breadth and variety of operations being performed, because if you think about surgery, they didn't have all the techniques and skills that they had now. So the American College of Surgeons was formed in 1913, and they took the lead in reforming surgical education. The college focused on surgical competency and not pedigree. There was a group of young academic surgeons led by Everett Graham, who felt the standards of the American College of Surgeons did not adequately define a surgeon, and he formed the Board of Surgery in 1937. And the board demanded that there were 3 graded years of residency following internship, which came from the Advisory Board of Medical Specialties and applied to all boards at that time. So the creation of the Board of Surgery pressured the American College of Surgeons to adopt and regulate residency training and demanded residency for all fellows of the college after 1938. The ACS Committee on Graduate Training in Surgery met in 1937 and outlined their expectations for residency programs, and as expected, it did not go well. The elite trained surgeons thought the standards were too low, and community practitioners felt the requirements were too stringent. So then the ACS independently inspected 270 hospitals. 89 or only 33% were approved fully, 46 or 17% were approved provisionally, and 50% were rejected. And the visits showed that the structure and content of training varied tremendously amongst hospitals. In 1939, the ACS developed the fundamental requirements for graduate training in surgery, and deans of academic institutions pledged to raise their programs to the proposed standards in hopes that they would be added to the ACS approved hospital list. And in turn, they hoped it would help them attract more qualified applicants. So as surgical training became more regulated, Halsted's pyramidal model was proving to be insufficient, as there's no set timeline for completion of residency. And it left physicians with as little of 1 year of formal surgical training who just didn't make it to that second tier. Edward Churchill proposed a rectangular program to Mass Gen Hospital in Boston, where 6 individuals were selected each year to complete 5 years of training in surgery. His training model was rooted on graded responsibility and removed the competition for survival amongst residents hoping to make it to the next tier of the model. And this rectangular model became the model for surgical residency training we know today. So then in 1950, the American Medical Association, American Board of Surgery, and the American College of Surgeons formed the Conference Committee on Graduate Training in Surgery, lots of words there, which assumed accreditation authority for surgery programs. This was the forerunner to the Residency Review Committee, or the RRC, and this model quickly spread to other specialties. Different RRCs had different standards that each hospital had to follow that were sometimes redundant or conflicting. And so because of this, AMA, ABMS, AHA, AAMC, Council of Medical Specialty and Societies, they all came together to form the Liaison Committee for Graduate Medical Education, or the LCGME, in 1972. Due to political and governance issues, it was dissolved after 9 years and reformed by the same organizations as the ACGME in 1981. The ACGME had many of the same political and governance issues as the LCGME until it broke off as a separately incorporated entity only in the year 2000. So that brief overview definitely skipped over a lot of history, including the formation of the American Board of Plastic Surgery in 1937, the development of the integrated pathway in plastic surgery, and the formal recognition of the integrated pathway in 1995. But it gives you a bit of a background and understanding as to where the regulation of surgical programs comes from. So looking a little more in depth at the ACGME, what the requirements mean. We're all kind of aware of this, and I know we had a talk yesterday. So I won't go into too much detail, but the mission of the ACGME is to improve healthcare and population health by assessing and enhancing the quality of resident and fellow physicians' education through advancements in accreditation and education. Since its formation in 1981, the ACGME has grown to accredit 182 specialties and subspecialties as of 2021 to 2022. In 2021, the ACGME accredited 12,740 residency and fellowship programs across 871 different sponsoring institutions. And there are roughly 154,000 residents or fellows in an ACGME accredited program last year. In plastic surgery, there are 88 accredited integrated programs with 1,065 residents, 47 independent plastic surgery residencies with only 198 residents. So again, now that we've kind of briefly established the size and scope of the ACGME's purview, what does it mean when the ACGME accredits a program? The ACGME accredits both programs and sponsoring institutions, and the review process is slightly different for both. Again, we're all familiar with this, but just reiterating for people. The sponsoring institution has to comply with the ACGME's institutional requirements and undergoes an annual institutional review, or AIR, and a biennial clinical learning environment or review, or a CLEAR site visit. Residencies and fellowships are reviewed by specialty-specific review committees, or RCs, comprised of volunteer physicians, a resident or fellow representative, a non-physician public member, and ex officios. There are 28 specialty-specific review committees in the ACGME, and each make a decision regarding the accreditation status on each program within its purview annually. And the annual institutional review, or AIR, looks at the results of all the institution's ACGME resident faculty surveys, accreditation information for their programs, including citations, performance indicators for an accredited program. In addition, the institution must submit a written summary of the AIR to the sponsoring institution's governing body, or GMAC. And then the summary must include a summary of institutional performance on indicators for the AIR, action plans, performance monitoring, all that fun paperwork that we sometimes have to help with. The clinical learning environment review is a site visit that happens every 24 months, give or take. That the sponsoring institution must undergo in order to maintain accreditation. They're short notice visits that look at patient safety, healthcare, quality, teaming, supervision, well-being, and professionalism. Site visitors meet with executive leadership, patient and safety leaders, GME office, and groups of residents and fellows, faculty members, and program directors. And it's very possible your residents might be called into a CLEAR site visit sometime during your training. So it's always kind of good to know what they're looking for, just in case you need to kind of coach them and say, like, this is what you're going to need to know or be able to tell them about. And additionally, the CLEAR site visit team does walking rounds on patient floors, units, and service areas. Each program within an institution has their own specialty-specific requirements. The review committee meets twice a year, looks to verify we submitted milestones, we review the accreditation data system update, or ads, to verify we're in compliance with the requirements. And they look very closely at the faculty and resident surveys each year to see if there's any concerning trends that they need to issue a citation for, areas for improvement, or a set like short noticed site visit. The RC also reviews case logs of graduated residents to ensure the residents are meeting the required minimums. And they monitor the board pass rates of graduates. Also included in the ADS updates are our block diagrams of rotations and a list of participating sites and resident education and verification that sites include the appropriate amenities as dictated by the institutional requirements. And then roughly every 10 years, we undergo a larger self-study and then in-person site visit, although as we're aware, this self-study is kind of on hold right now. So the review committee for plastic surgery, I know we had David Song here the other day, but here is just everybody else that is a member and their meeting dates. I know it's usually a couple months out that you have to submit information to get added to the agenda as well. Whatever. And depending on what time of year they meet is kind of when they look at different parts of the application. So they usually look at ADS updates in January and then the surveys in May based on their big sources of info. Briefly onto the American Board of Plastic Surgery. As previously mentioned, the American Board of Plastic Surgery was founded in June of 1937, formally received recognition by the American Board of Surgery in 1938, and became a major specialty board in May of 1941. And unlike the ACGME, the board does not review or approve residencies, but it certifies individuals. And then for the Board of Plastic Surgery, all residents, whether in an integrated or independent pathways, must receive clinical experience in the following areas: abdominal surgery, oncologic or breast surgery, ped surgery, surgical critical care, surgical oncology. And in case you ever have residents wonder why they are on those services, that is why. I know I've had several residents be like, why am I doing transplant? You're like, well, it is required. But it's also, they're trying to make sure the residents are actually good practitioners and know how to manage certain issues in case they have a like road bump in the speed bump in the OR. The board also dictates that training in plastic surgery should cover the below 13 areas. And almost all of them, I think gender affirmation surgery is the newest, but they correspond with minimums on the ACGME case log reports. So again, that's kind of how it all kind of starts to come together. The American Board of Plastic Surgery issues the booklet of information each year. It's available online and includes any policy changes, training requirements set by the board, information on the written exam timeline, guidelines, oral exam guidelines and info, as well as marketing and advertising requirements by the future graduates. So that's always good to know, good to look at every year to see if anything changes. So other helpful tidbits regarding the board, we're mostly aware, but they have to submit the evaluation of training form as a PGY1. They apply for the written board, usually in September if they're PGY 6 year, or I guess 9 if you're independent. And then once they're recommended for examination, they can register and pay for the written exam in January. And the written exams now take place in May of their final year of training. And then no less than 3 years of an integrated program must be concentrated in plastic surgery, which is always kind of good to know, especially as Gen Surg sometimes leads into a little bit harder for help. And all trainings must be approved by the ACGME for all years of training. So what do we actually do? We have our requirements. According to the ACGME, there must be a program coordinator. I must be provided with dedicated time and support for the administration of the program based on its size and configuration, and that is all we are given for our position description. It does suggest that we are a key member of the leadership team and critical to the success of the program. And my husband insisted I add this Simpsons quote that's a little bit modified, but it's pretty fitting because we do so many small jobs and it's one big job. So in the year 2000, the ACGME unveiled the Outcome Project, where they started to look at programs to see if they were actually training and graduating competent physicians versus simply looking at the resources programs were providing trainees. Accreditation used to be much more about how many journals were in the resident library and what the patient census was versus residents actually being safe surgeons. Hi, Dr. Benz. The Outcome Project also stressed that service to the hospital and patients could no longer supersede the educational mission. In other words, residents couldn't be forced to do labor for higher cause if the patient wasn't relevant, or of the patient if it wasn't relevant to their training. With that came an expansion to the common program requirements and duties coordinators were responsible for. The role evolved from that of a secretary to a mix of human resources, education expert, finance person, and legal counsel. So, simplify it a little bit more. Our job is to translate the rules of the ACGME, the American Board of Plastic Surgery, and the policies of the sponsoring institution. So in my case, UW Health, and also the medical school, the state that you're in, ACAPS, et cetera, in order to make sure that the residency is coherent and runs smoothly. Pretty simple, right? And this is pretty much what my residents, I swear, I think I do all day. I love them all dearly, but but this is pretty much what we actually do all day. So my residents were shocked when I put this slide up and told them my day-to-day was basically like a roulette game between any of these tasks. I could be doing compliance and all of a sudden have to be making some call changes and looking at how that's going to affect work hours, and then work on some evaluations and book out graduation like 8 months in advance because it's a Saturday and wedding season. When you look at it, it really makes you appreciate all that we do and are expected to be content experts in. Several of these areas are full-time jobs, HR, credentialing, and for many people, there's only a small part of what we actually do as coordinators. And I know I might be preaching to the choir, or I might just be one of the weird people, but I have really struggled with imposter syndrome in this role because it's so hard when you work for so many talented physicians who so much of their life is about their pedigree, where they went to school, what degrees they have, to not feel like you are less than. But I just want to remind you all that you are very talented and you are all pretty cool people. We live and breathe our residency program, and we're absolutely essential to our programs as much as others might want to believe it or compensate us for it. And because I'm a millennial, I love to communicate via memes. So here's a bit about how work and life have been lately for probably all of us as coordinators. I definitely have more gray hairs than when I started and a lot less hair. When I was looking at the headshot that Dr. Bentz tweeted of me, I was like, I used to look like a baby. And no, it's not there anymore. I'm that sad fox. And I'm sure I'm not alone in being exhausted and overwhelmed in this role at times. Especially as a mother of 2 young kids, I've really felt the pressure to be everything to everyone these past few years. I'm just trying to remind myself, I'm allowed to take time for myself, and I don't have to be perfect to be good at my job. I know we had a lot of that conversation yesterday with Beth's talk, and we need to remind ourselves not to miss the important things in our lives because of this job. So I want to encourage you all to take some time off, whether it's later tonight, last night when we went out for drinks, or in a week and just relax. I know that is really hard to step away, but we all need it. We've been through a lot this past few years trying to help support everyone with COVID. Pivoting to virtual interviews was not easy on us. And all the challenges they brought to our workflows, we deserve some time. Sorry. So in summary, when I was telling my 6-year-old daughter, Aubrey, about this trip and how I was going to give this talk to everybody, and how it was very similar to the talk I gave to my attendings, she again was like, tell them this about yourself. So I help surgeons. Oh, well, thought I'd do it. I know a lot of things, and I'm great at my job. So you all honestly are the most amazing people to work with and make being a president so worthwhile. Thank you for being so supportive, involved, and all around amazing humans and coordinators. It's been an honor to get to work with you and an honor to serve as a president this past year. I hope I'll continue to see you at future meetings. Encourage you all to get involved with ACAPS. This has been one of the best years of my life for professional development. I have learned and grown so much because of this opportunity, and that was definitely way out of my comfort zone at times. So thank you very much. It's been an honor. And then because I couldn't figure it out, I tried so hard to embed it, and I don't know if it's going to work. The audio. Well, I will send you all the link. It was funny. Oh wait, maybe I can.
Have you ever had a dream that you could?
So that was me. So, thank you. Any questions? Yeah. I can hop down and give you the mic. Just make sure it's on. I don't think it's on.
I just wanted to say that Alyssa did a great job this year. I mean, I've done this job. I know what it's like. Elaine has done it. You did a great job. This meeting was great. The speakers were great. Everything was great. So I just wanted to let you know that you did a great job.
And the talks yesterday were recorded, so eventually they'll be up on a website that we can watch if you need to re-watch any of those.
And with the slides too?
Yes,
Like the slides.
the view of the slides. Yep. Anything else? You missed it, Nick. It was scheduled to be at 9:30. We ended early, and I can reshare my oh, is there a chat? I'm struggling. Should have brought a Kleenex up. The toilet paper. Just for Nick and Dr. Benz, they can see the talk title. So that's how I started. And then I did this. So thank you. Okay. So the next little business is just standard announcements. This year was a really, really tight election. I think everyone, it was one vote for both positions. So I am really excited to announce the president-elect next year will be Rhonda Girding from the University of Indiana University. And the next counselor at large is Colleen McDowell from Duke. And then next year we will gather in Austin, is where the meeting will be. It's a fun city. So, and then Christine will be next president. You want to come say anything, Christine?
I do want to say, I don't have another slide, sorry. No slide again. it's been pleasure watching Alyssa did this job, and it's amazing. Like, oh my God, I have a big shoe to fill, right? She did a great job, and I get emotional because we all share the same, issues, and we experience it. So we're here for each other. It's going to be a short speech, but I want to thank all the past presidents who gave us this platform and gave us a voice, put us on ACAPS, right? They worked really hard. So I encourage everyone, if this is your passion, and you're invested, to, be part of ACAPS, be part of our, council, join, right? And don't feel like you're alone. We're here for each other. We're here to support each other. And so that's all I want to say. Thank you for Alyssa. Thank you to all our past presidents, Elena and Chris and Michelle and Kate, Kathy, and everybody who, continue to give us okay, guys, we need to do this. We need to make sure our voice are heard. So thank you everybody for giving me this opportunity to be here. I don't know, my goal is to promote everybody, I guess, to, professional development. This is part of your professional development. I'm so shy. I'm very introvert, but I'm going, and I love Beth's talk, how you have to go outside the box, right? You have to promote yourself because nobody else will do it for you. So thank you all.
I also want to say thank you to Shayla and Olivia who are out there. This conference wouldn't have been possible without you guys helping us. So thank you for all you do for ACAPS, for us as coordinators. Just before, I guess, we end a little early, which go take a nap, I don't know. The business meeting is at 11:30 in the convention center. If you're available, definitely go to it. It's a good learning experience. Good just to see kind of what everyone else is thinking about within ACAPS. And then I guess if there's any feedback at all on the meeting, I will work on getting a survey out to everybody. But if there's anything you want to say or know that you want next year, either chime in now or send me an email and we'll try to make sure that this is useful for you. Yes, Rhonda? I will email them. I didn't get that done this year. I was going to print them here and then I just here. It's one more thing to get crumpled in your carry-on anyway. So yeah, there are certificates. You do get education credit in case you want to go for the Take Me certification. I think you have to register in January in order to take it. I will verify. I've been on the fence on getting the certification myself. So I will make sure everyone knows about that. And then the other thing we did want to maybe get a quick poll on is, do we want to continue the monthly meetings? Do we want to drop them down to quarterly? I just want to make sure we're making this useful for you and not just another thing that you feel like you have to join. So vote for monthly. Okay. Okay. Votes for monthly. And then I guess try and encourage coordinators to come to this every year. I feel like it's only great when we all show up and interact, and it's so much fun to get to know other people that you work with and be there as a support person for everyone. If you don't have a mentor or a mentee, if you're willing to be a mentee, let us know. Or be a mentor to a mentee. And if you need a mentor, let us know as well. Okay. And I know ACAPS as a whole is planning on kind of looking at our membership. So reminder to apply to be a member. It doesn't cost anything, and then you get the discounted conference registration. It's just a quick form online. But we're gonna try and make sure that we're not missing coordinators since it is such a hard job and there's so much turnover. So even if you know someone left, if you were close and know their replacement, send them our way. We will try and keep that spreadsheet up to date. So thank you, everybody. It's been an honor. Thank you for virtual attendees too. I do not see Becky online. All right, bye everyone virtually. The business meeting is, I think it's 2:10. I got in 210A. 210A. We could do a quick, does anyone want to do a monthly meeting in November or wait until like January just with interviews? Okay. So just a quick meeting, like. Okay, perfect. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Safe travels home.